everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to be looking at the McFarlane DC Multiverse Arkham City Ghul. This is part of the collect-to-build Solomon Grundy wave. This is the third of 4 figures to build him. I'm really excited about this wave, as I'm a huge fan of the Arkham franchise, and a huge Batman fan and collector. I picked up the entire wave at Target today, so let's check out the packaging. As you can see at the top, 22 moving parts, McFarlane Toys, ages 12 plus, DC Multiverse Ghul, collect-to-build Solomon Grundy, figure 3 of 4. Here he is in the package. He has his sword, Grundy's arms, a display stand, and a collector's card. One side of the package, Ghul from Batman Arkham City. Other side simply says Ghul. At the bottom, got a bunch of credits, and there is a barcode, in case it helps anybody. And on the back side, here's Grundy. Here are the pieces you get with this figure. Here's a checklist of all the pieces, and here is the rest of the wave. Batman, Catwoman, Ghul, and the Penguin. So no further ado, let's open them up. And I did pick up the entire wave at Target today, and there is quite a story behind this. I'm sure all of you guys out there will appreciate the story. So when I went to the first Target, they didn't have anything. Had them punch in the number, and they told me 2 other Target stores in the nearby area that had 6. I knew that's a full case, being the entire wave and a couple of doubles. One of the Targets is about an hour away, and one was only about 10 or 15 minutes away. But before I went to that Target, I decided to give him a call. Asked for a guy in the electronics section, had him punch in the DCPI. He said they had 6, and he asked me which one I wanted. I said, well, there are 4 different characters in the assortment. I would like to get all 4. He said he could only sell me 1 since the numbers share between the entire wave. I was just like, what? What do you mean? I absolutely hate this particular Target store. They have this rule that they've completely made up, saying they can only sell 1 item per collector per day. And if you guys know my channel, I like to get one of my Batman figures to open, and one to keep unopened in my complete Batman-related unopened action figure collection. But I knew that was going to happen here, so I didn't even push that issue. I just wanted to get 1 of each of the characters. So I called there. He verified he had them, but he said that he could only sell me 1. And I said, well, they're different characters. It's not the same figure. So he didn't really say much. I drove up there, 15 minutes away, not a big deal. When I got there, I saw the guy talk to him on the phone. I said, hey, I called you on the phone. He said, okay, cool. Which one do you want? I said, well, I'd like to get all 4 of them. He said, I can only sell you 1. I said, what? That doesn't make sense. You said it's a limit of 1 item per customer per day. These are 4 different items. He said, well, the number is shared between the entire wave, so I'm only allowed to sell you 1. I said, that's not a policy. You're literally making this up right now. And honestly, he wasn't making that up, but that's a policy that he was told their store does. And I can kind of understand they don't really want to support scalpers. They don't want someone to come buy 6 of the same figure and then go sell them online. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I wasn't even trying to get 2 of them, which I would have liked. So he said he would go ask his manager. He went to the back, came back a few minutes later and said, oh, my manager said you can only have 1 of them since the number's shared. I was like, what? You really won't sell me 4 different action figures that you have right now? So I asked for the manager. He went out, got the manager. Manager came out smiling, pretty nice. I said, so, hey, I'm here to purchase these 4 items. You have them in the back. I know you do. Guy confirmed this. But he said he can only sell me 1. The guy said, yes, that's correct. The number is shared between the entire wave. We can only sell you 1 of those things today. If you want to come back tomorrow, you can get another one. Come back the next day, get another one. Come back the next day, get... I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I said, I understand if you're trying to limit me 1 item. That's fine, per character. But these are 4 different characters. They have different UPC numbers. The DCPI, which is a target internal number to represent the UPC number, is shared between the wave, because that's just the way that works. He said, yeah, I'm so sorry, but since it's shared, I can only give you 1. And I'm just like looking at him like, what? Kept my cool, didn't argue, didn't raise my voice. Simply explained, hey, I want to be able to build this character. He said, oh, is it one that has the arms and legs? Yeah, sure is. He said, oh, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll compromise. I'll sell you 2. And then you can come back tomorrow and get the other 2. I'm like, why would you make me do that? I said, if you're not going to sell these to me, I'm going to have to drive 45 minutes away to go to this other Target, and I really don't want to do that. Do you really want to make me do that? And he's like, not really. So I kept pleading my case, being cool about it. Explained to him, I'm not aggressive, but I am very passionate, but I want these figures. Eventually I did win. He said he would sell me all 4. He said he'd follow up with a policy. And I told him, pretty sure that policy is an old wives' tale. It's something that's made up and definitely not an official Target policy. I do get some of these stores vary from store to store. They have their own rules. Maybe there's a bunch of aggressive collectors that come there, won't take no for an answer. And maybe that's what I am. And I told him all that stuff. So I did get my 4 figures, but I was very displeased to have to sit there for 25, 30 minutes just to plead my case, just to get the whole wave so I could have it all at once. What do you guys think? Was I being a jerk? Because I damn sure know I wasn't. Is that Target's policy? Hell no, that is not Target's policy. Only this particular Target always gives me this problem, and this happens to be the Target that always gets the figures first. So, with no further ado, let's open them up. Alright, now that we got this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. He comes with a display stand, a collector's card, and then his sword from Arkham City. But before we take a look at those, let's talk about and check out the actual figure. So this is Ra's al Ghul from Arkham City. He was kind of behind the entire thing. Hugo Strange ran Arkham City, kind of came with the idea, but Ra's al Ghul was behind Hugo Strange, operating him like a puppet. This is the second version of the Arkham City Ra's al Ghul that's been made. DC Direct made one many years ago, but this figure looks to be better articulated, and I think this guy looks pretty good. So let's take a look. Starting with his head here. His hair's a little crazy. I've seen some people refer to him as Goku Ra's al Ghul, and I can see why. There are definitely some parts in the game where he looked like this, but I think it was kind of in the minority. He's got some gray on the side of his hair sticking up. Looks like he's got a little bit red around his eyes. Ra's al Ghul's signature goatee. Logo of the demon's head on his chest here. Tattoos all over his arms. Shoulder pads. Double jointed elbows. Double jointed knees. Demon's head logo on his belt. It's a good looking figure. Definitely not perfect. But we'll check it out and see if it's better than the DC Direct version later in the video. And just a closer look at his face and head sculpt. I remember the DC Direct one having kind of a squished face. We'll check that out in a little bit. Now let's take a look at his accessories. And let's start off with the boring stuff. Here's his display stand. Typical McFarlane stand. Black perfect circle. It says DC on the bottom. It's got one peg for the peg holes on his feet. Very thin. Very basic. Now let's look at his collector's card. As you can see, it's an image of the figure Ra's al Ghul holding a sword from Arkham City. Ra's al Ghul from Batman Arkham City. On the back side, there is a description. If you want to read that, go ahead and pause now. Now let's look at his sword. The handle here is gold. Nice sculpt and detail. It's got sort of a logo of the demon's head there. Then it's got this blade. Pretty cool. And it's a nice little inscription on there. Here's his sword next to Talia's sword. Talia's sword came with the sick Joker from Arkham City. He stole it from her at the end of the game. It's the exact same sculpt, painted a little bit differently, and doesn't have the inscription. And here it is, next to the DC Direct version of the Arkham City Ra's al Ghul sword. Here's Ra's al Ghul holding his sword. He can hold it with either one hand or with two, even though the handle isn't quite long enough for two hands. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, now let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, standing at about 7.4 inches tall, which can translate to just under 19 centimeters. Now let's check out his articulation. Starting with his head here, of course, you can rotate from side to side, up and down about that much, really not too much there. Can tilt his head from one side to the other. Shoulders on a ball joint, goes out a little bit more than 90 degrees, up, down, around, all that good stuff. He doesn't have that usual butterfly joint between his shoulder and chest area. He covers up the gap, but his gap's not bad. Bicep cut below that. Double jointed elbows that go all the way in. His wrist can rotate, and it's going to be hinged as well. His torso, it feels like one solid piece. It's sort of a soft goods overlay here. You can see me pushing inside there. So there is a joint here. You can see kind of folds down. Doesn't look all that good when you're doing that. It doesn't really get to hold any of those poses, so it's effectively kind of wasted. Another ball joint is waist, rotate around, forward and back. Legs, does a splits completely. Not a ball joint, but a similar idea. Rotation is non-existent. They go forward, about that far, back, not much. Double jointed knees. Then his ankle here, forward and back, rotate, tilt, rock, and he has 2 articulation. Here's Ra's al Ghul with some of Talia's elite guard behind him. Here's Ra's al Ghul offering Batman a goblet. He's asking Batman to drink from the goblet. It'll help cure, or at least temporarily, his Titan symptoms. Ra's al Ghul wants Batman to be his heir. This is part of his commitment to doing that. Here's Batman at the top of Wonder Tower, taking down the Tiger Guards, about to confront Hugo Strange while Protocol 10 is going on. Hugo Strange then explains his plans to Batman, as villains often do. Ra's al Ghul sneaks up behind Hugo Strange, stabs him through the chest with a sword, surprising Hugo, establishing his dominance. Then Ra's al Ghul calmly puts his hands behind his back and explains the true plan to Batman, ridding Gotham of all criminal element, and then implementing this Arkham City strategy across the country. Hugo Strange is not completely dead. His last breath, he tells the computer, activate Protocol 11. At this point, Wonder Tower explodes, pushing Batman and Ra's al Ghul out. Ra's al Ghul lands, getting impaled, thus ending his reign of the League of Assassins. Now let's check him out, next to some other action figures, starting off with some other Ra's al Ghul figures. Here's this McFarlane Arkham City Ra's al Ghul, next to the DC Direct version. You can definitely see similarities here. Same type of outfit, tattoos, similar hair. DC Direct figures typically have a little bit better sculpt, better paint job. McFarlane's going to have considerably better articulation. One thing I notice, tattoos are green on the DC Direct version. They're black on the McFarlane version. Similar things, they both have the Demon's Head logo here, both have them here. Legs big and bulky. McFarlane one can definitely move a lot better than the DC Direct version. Here's a closer look at the 2 figures' face sculpts. I always thought the DC Direct had sort of a derp, scrunched face. I've definitely seen some that are worse, and some that are a little better. Hair a little bit less crazy. Which one do you guys think's better? I'm going to have to give it to McFarlane this time. Here he is, next to all of my DC Direct and DC Collectibles Ra's al Ghul figures. The only one missing is the Trinity Ra's al Ghul. I've actually gone through a couple of those and customized them into other figures. I'll need to get a replacement. And here he is, next to the Mattel DC Universe Classics Signature Collection Ra's al Ghul. Then, with a custom Ra's al Ghul I made out of a DC Universe Classics Clark Kent, a DC Direct Hush Ra's al Ghul head, and a DC Direct Trinity Ra's al Ghul cape. I made this guy well before Mattel made their version, and he's quite similar, and I'm going to have to say, quite superior. This is probably my favorite Ra's al Ghul figure that I have. And here he is, next to a couple of Soap Studios Ra's al Ghul figures. On the left, the unmasked version, and on the right, the masked version, which could be Ra's al Ghul, or any member of the League of Shadows. Then, next to a couple of Mafex Ra's al Ghul figures. The one on the left is in the full League of Shadows attire, and the one on the right, I took the unmasked head, popped it onto a John Wick body, in the all-black suit, the black shirt, looking just like Ra's al Ghul from Batman Begins. And now, with a Mattel Movie Master Ra's al Ghul from The Dark Knight Rises. Here's his McFarlane Ra's, next to 5 different Mattel Ra's al Ghul figures. These are a smaller scale from Batman Begins. On the left, we have the fake Ra's al Ghul, and on the right, Henry Ducard, who turned out to be the real Ra's al Ghul. And here he is, next to a couple of Kenner Ra's al Ghul figures. Here's my entire collection of Ra's al Ghul figures. There's a couple missing, but I have most of them. Now let's check them out, next to some other Ra's al Ghul family members. Here's McFarlane's Arkham City Ra's al Ghul, next to DC Direct's Arkham City Talia al Ghul. And here he is, with all of my Talia al Ghul figures. From left to right, we have the DC Direct Batman Animated Series Talia al Ghul. And then, this is a figure from a movie called The Spirit. I thought she worked good as a certain kind of Talia al Ghul. Then, of course, the DC Direct Arkham City Talia al Ghul. And then a custom Talia al Ghul that my wife made for me a good 15 years ago. Probably my favorite version. And the last one is the old Kenner Batman the Animated Series Talia al Ghul. Then, next to a custom Ubu. This figure is amazing. I got him off a customizer, I think his name was Warhammer, for a great deal. I've had this guy for many years. I can see some paint starting to chip on this guy. Still, we've really never received an Ubu figure of any way, shape, or form, so I'm really happy to have this guy. Not only that, but he looks so good. And here he is, next to a Marvel Legends, Marvel Cinematic Universe, Elektra. I use this figure as Nis Al Ghul, Talia's sister, one of Raish's other children. And I have this old Street Fighter figure. I use this guy as the Sensei. He's another member of the Ra's al Ghul family, and I think he actually might be another one of Ra's al Ghul's children, even though he visually looks a lot older than Raish. Raish is almost 1,000 years old. And here, next to McFarlane Damian Wayne Robin. Damian Wayne is Ra's al Ghul's grandson, the son of Talia and Bruce Wayne. Here he is, next to Ghostmaker, who I think also trained in the League of Shadows. And here are a couple more members of the League of Shadows, depending on what source material you're looking at. Deathstroke was part of the League of Shadows in the animated film Son of Batman, and Sportsmaster was part of the League in Young Justice. I hope eventually to get some customs of Silver Monkey and Cheshire. Then, next to Lady Shiva and Cassandra Cain Batgirl, both of which have ties to the League of Shadows. I believe Lady Shiva is Cassandra Cain's mother, and I'm hoping to get a custom of David Cain, her father, eventually. And now let's check him out. Next is one of the League of Shadows henchmen. Here's Ra's al Ghul, next to Vertigo, and a couple of League of Shadows members from Batman the Animated Series. These are customs my wife made for me about 15 years ago. Here he is, next to 4 different Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon Gen U figures. They work great as Talia's elite guards from Arkham City. And now, here's Ra's al Ghul, next to 16 different DC Direct, Malcolm Merlin or Dark Archer figures from CW's Arrowverse. Now when they first came out with this figure, they made the one that's to the right of Ra's al Ghul, and I thought that would be a great League of Shadows member, so I bought 5 of them, and that was before I watched the Arrow TV show. Then when I actually watched the show, it turned out that's exactly what they were. So then they made an unmasked version, and I bought 5 of him. Then I got 6 of him, and then I got even more because I want to do some head swaps between the masked version and the unmasked version. And now I have a huge army of League of Shadows or League of Assassins members for Raish. Here's Raish, next to Soap Studios Ra's al Ghul or League of Shadows members from Batman Begins. The only version that came with this head was the deluxe edition. Then, here he is, next to the Mafex Ra's al Ghul. I bought 8 of these guys. With their masked head, they are perfect Batman Begins style League of Shadows members. And now, next to a bunch of Mattel Movie Master Survival Suit Bruce Wayne figures, I got a bunch of these way back when and used them for League of Shadows members. This is way before there were any actual League of Shadows options out there. And here he is, next to a couple of DC Direct Ninja Man-Bat figures from Son of Batman. In that storyline, he had a whole army of these things. Now let's check him out. Next to some other McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here are all 4 of the regular figures from the Arkham City Collect-to-Build Solomon Grundy wave. Add in this undersized Grundy, and this is the entire wave. And add in the recently released Arkham City Sick Joker, and these are all the Arkham City figures they've made so far. The next 5 they're making are going to be Walmart exclusive, gold label, gray variations of the Collect-to-Build Solomon Grundy wave. I'm probably the minority, but I'm kind of excited to get those. Here's Raish, next to McFarlane's entire Arkham Asylum collection. They have only made Croc, Batman, and the Joker, but there are still a total of 8 figures from this game. And here he is, next to the only character they made from Arkham Origins. This is Deathstroke, and he wears pretty much the exact same outfit of Arkham Knight. Then, next to the entire Arkham Knight collection. Now the Arkham video games are not the only DC games McFarlane has made figures from. Here's Ra's al Ghul, next to McFarlane's entire Gotham Knights collection, and I really hope they give us more Gotham Knights figures. Here he is, next to McFarlane's Mortal Kombat 11 DC offerings, Joker and the Batman Who Laughs. And finally, here he is, next to McFarlane's Injustice 2 collection. Quite a bit of figures, and they recently revealed Supergirl and Dr. Fate. Now let's check him out. Next is some action figures from different various companies to see how he fits in both scale and style wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a McFarlane figure, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the large action figure lines I collect and work my way smaller. But first, let's check them out with some of the McFarlane Toys brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane Toys, all 7-inch scale. Then, next is more McFarlane Toys. These are from different various video game properties. And now, next is some Jack-specific wrestling figures. And here he is, next to some DST or Diamond Select toys. Then, with some DC Direct and DC Collectibles figures. And here he is, standing with some NECA figures. Then, with some Mattel wrestling figures. And now, next to some Jazzwares AEW wrestlers. And here he is, next to some Mezco 112 collective figures. Then, next to some Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse figures. And here he is, with some Mafex figures. Then, with some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here he is, next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. And finally, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. Overall, it's a pretty nice figure. Sculpt and paint job are excellent. Something about his face is just a little off, but I'm going to say it's superior to the DC Direct version. His accessory's pretty cool. The sword looks good. I like the engraving, and it's not fragile. I broke that DC Direct one or two times over the years and glued it back together. His articulation is everything you would expect from a McFarlane DC Multiverse figure. Could definitely use some more thigh rotation. If I had to rate this guy, I'm going to give him a 7.5 out of 10. Very pleased that he beat the DC Direct version. A lot of the time, the DC Direct figures look better than McFarlane figures, although they don't move better. This guy moves better, and I'd say he looks better. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys real soon.